Welcome back to NewsX World. I'm Megha Sharma and you're watching Focal Length, where we get you a briefing of topics from across the globe. The United States of America is heading into a tight election season. This amidst two wars, one in Ukraine, the other one in Gaza. How will they impact the political discourse in America, and more importantly, how will the political imperatives in Washington drive the course of war and peace? We are being joined by Bob Lancia, a politician, former educator, and before that, a US Navy chaplain. Mr. Lancia, thank you for joining us on Focal Length. Let's begin by asking you the first question. Do you see the initial polls between Biden and Trump a close contest?
I actually see it as a close contest. And I honestly think if a third-party candidate, such as Robert Kennedy Jr. gets in, it could tip the election either way. I don't think we have a candidate that's like him since Ross Perot, which was back with George W. Bush when he lost to Clinton.
What has worked in favor of Donald Trump in the last 5 years?
Well, I think, when he was talking about economic opportunity, getting our overseas partners to contribute to a lot of our efforts around the world. We have some tremendous border issues right now with our southern and northern borders. So I think those are some of the top issues. And I think when they poll people, the number one issue is border security and economics. So I think those are the two things that, he's really touting his ability to handle. And despite the fact that President Biden's done a good job, I think inflation is a challenge for him because people aren't necessarily feeling good about where they are economically because of the cost to borrow money, because of the cost of goods, those kinds of things. So, that's a challenge for him. And despite him trying to get the word out of how well he thinks he's done, people are not feeling it. And so I think this is an opening and opportunity for former President Donald Trump.
Do you see the Bonds case and other cases against Trump a witch hunt against him? And if so, how?
There's a couple of cases that I have a problem with and I'm concerned about. Certainly the one in New York with Letitia James, the Attorney General, who her campaign pledge was to get Donald Trump. And now this unprecedented decision by the judge for an incredible amount of money, what, $454 billion, or $1 million for him, not billion, but $1 million. And he's got to put up a bond by Monday, or she could do several things. She could start seizing his property, start seizing his bank accounts. But this has never happened to anyone else before. The whole January 6th thing and the election interference, that's a whole nother matter. But this one is, I think, particularly problematic and egregious in my mind. And then he's got the issue with the former stripper, and then supposedly the woman that had the issue with him sexually, whatever, with her. So, there's a couple there that are a bit more problematic. But certainly the one I think is the biggest issue right now is this settlement or judgment by the judge in New York for regarding his properties in New York and the possibility of, if he can't pay that bond, starting to maybe seize his properties, things like that. So that's what I see as his biggest problem right now.
Why do you think Donald Trump is better suited to lead America right now?
It's a tough situation right now. But if the border is your number one issue, which it is for a lot of people right now, a majority, more than 50% of the people, the person who is going to secure the border, which he had done when he was president, would be Donald Trump. And economically, I think, people are very concerned with the rate of inflation. But then also under the Trump presidency, we had no wars. And under the Biden administration, we have multiple wars. And then I'm a former Navy chaplain. I'm a disabled vet. I was very, very unhappy with the way the situation in Afghanistan ended. I was very, very upset about that. And, that was an ugly incident under President Biden. It reminded me a lot of President Carter, with those helicopters that crashed in the desert when he was trying to, rescue hostages in Iran. And that opened the door for President Reagan to be elected. So, again, things happen and situations. So for a number of issues, I think, Trump, it would be able to solve them. And I think the biggest one right now is the border, and all these various actions that are happening around the world, which again, he may, he's said under his administration, we did not have these situations. So yeah, it's a tough call, but for a lot of people, if over 50% of the people think the border is the issue, for that reason, they would like him to be president. But one thing the former president, does have an ability to do is, and even his own party, people in his own party say the same thing. He needs to know when to say things and what to say, and sometimes he just takes it too far, and it hurts him and his credibility and support.
Do you feel that the people of America blame Trump for the Capitol Hill riots, or is that not a factor in 2024 elections?
No, I think that is problematic for him as well. People, do think that many people think that he may have had, a part to play in all of that. But evidence that's come out now has talked about the fact that if they thought there was going to be violence, or if there was going to be a situation, that National Guard troops should have been mobilized. And I know there's some paperwork out there, some information that he may have made, asked for that, or had said he would make people available, which could have stopped all of this. But having the rally that day and everything, he did say during it, he did not want violence, but he wasn't able to control the situation, and it wasn't his intention to have people, storm the Capitol. But the rally, gave the opportunity for so many people to gather. And then things happen, just like in the summer of 2020 with the killing of that gentleman, African-American gentleman, and creating the riots in the summer of 2020, George Floyd. So, I mean, things can happen. And I don't know anybody who was, expecting that was going to be the case, but look what happened. So things can happen. And, he tried to hold a rally and then stuff happened. So, I don't know, certainly don't think he was directly involved in any of that. It just was, I think, a series of situations that led to it.
Will the Republicans change America's policy on the Russia-Ukraine war and the Israel-Hamas conflict?
Yeah, well, actually, for Israel, President Biden is starting to push on the Netanyahu to not go any further and try to wrap things up. Where Donald Trump, I think, is got a better relationship, is friendly with Netanyahu. So for in the Israel situation, I think for the Israelis, Trump would be probably better than Biden for that purpose. As far as Ukraine, Ukraine is a mess. And whether it's Biden or Trump, again, it's a bad situation. I feel very bad for the people there. They're being killed, just as I feel bad for the citizens of Gaza. And the starvation and everything else going on there. I mean, there's an element of humanity that needs to be addressed. And whether it's Trump or Biden, that we had that picture of that 10-year-old boy dying from starvation. That picture, it really breaks my heart. So we need to do something for civilians, and if they're going to do something further, it needs to be, I think, more targeted. And also, to your point, you're an India entity, with all these people pouring over the border. A lot of my India friends, and my wife and I consider ourselves to be Mr. and Mrs. India, because we have such a great relationship with the India people and the Indian American people. Look what's happening to folks that, are trying to go through the process of immigration the right way. They're trying to do it, through the process. And so many of our Indian friends have been waiting for green cards 10, 20 years and having to go back and being sent back. I mean, that breaks my heart. So, and I think the former president, had a much better relationship with Prime Minister Modi than the current president does. And I think Republicans tend to have a better relationship with India than Democrats do. That's my impression anyway. And India is becoming such a rising power, and the Prime Minister Modi is doing amazing things. And he shows such vitality, whether it's scuba diving or riding in a helicopter or flying in a jet. I mean, he's showing such vitality as he prepares, I think, to obviously win his third term. That speaks volumes, and he is the most admired leader in the world. And there's a reason for that. And, he's kept India out of a lot of these conflicts. And they're trying to act as a peacemaker, a humanitarian country. There's a lot to emulate. And I think the United States needs to look more to India for help, and especially in that Asian theater. India's got its own problems with China. We do too. So that's a situation where we need to be partnering up more. And I don't think we're doing that enough. And I think, we need to do more of that too.
How do you see Biden's order dismissing deportation cases against 200,000 migrants?
Well, I have a heart for people. And I think everyone does. And Americans as a whole, we're generous people. But, we are facing right now, we have our $34 trillion in debt in the nation, and our debt is increasing by $1 trillion every 100 days. I mean, think about that. Wrap your head around that. So I, appreciate trying to help folks from around the world, but we weren't providing the same support, whether it was housing or health or clothing or food, for our own citizens. And I'm a disabled vet, and our veterans, a lot of our veterans were homeless. So we weren't providing our African Americans, Latinos who are already here as citizens. I mean, I want to help as many people as possible, but we need to put our citizens first, and we haven't done that. And now to see the largesse that's going out, helping others who are not citizens, who are coming here, obviously looking for help and shelter and maybe political asylum. It's a conundrum, and we need to figure out a way to do that. But we cannot continue to spend the money. One of our neighboring states here in New England, they're going to empty their surplus of $580 million to provide, food and shelter and things for, people who have come over the border, these migrants. But again, are we providing those same things for our own citizens? And unfortunately, we haven't. So it's problematic to me.
With that, we take a short break. See you on the other side.